If you're running Amazon Relay, you need to watch this video. Why? Because you might be losing out on some money. This is why I really don't like pulling containers. Look at this. Look what we got going on here. They could possibly, I don't remember what the guideline is. I know it has to be sticking out, right? But that thing is not sticking out far enough onto that. So I don't know what the stipulation is on that. I'm gonna have to look that up now that I think about it. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to have 2 lock pins on there, man, this thing. Yeah. I will look it up. I gotta look it up. Doesn't seem right. Like, look at this. These container frames is what I really don't like pulling. Look at this. Look. They're usually just jacked up in so many ways, man. I think I'm gonna have to call this in. Yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna look that up on how many I'm supposed to have on there. I'm pretty sure you're supposed to have 2. Don't quote me on that. I'm gonna look it up right now. So I did look it up, and you do need 4. I think I made a mistake in saying you have to have at least 2. What I meant is 2 on each side, right? But you have to have 4 total. And it makes sense because if you only have, let's say, the 2 in the front, like in this case, you only have 2 in the front. You hit the brakes hard, those are gonna stop. The chassis itself is not. I mean, it's gonna try to stop, but nothing is holding it back in the back, so it's probably gonna flip up, you know? I mean, it might come back down to where it came from, but it might not. Look at that. Look at that. Ah, man. It didn't go through, I don't think. It could have gone through. I stand corrected. Actually, the FMCSA only states that they have to be locked and fully engaged. It doesn't show how many should be on there. Now, I will say that I stand firm that I think they should be 4 on there, because that thing will bounce a lot when you hit that brake, you know what I mean, if you only have 2 of them, right? So yeah, I think FMCSA is up to the manufacturers, because it looks like, based on the design of specifically what we're talking about, the frame, right, the chassis, is that based on the design, manufacturers only put 2 sometimes instead of 4. But I still stay firm that I think there should be 4 on there, man. That's just too dangerous for me. Okay, now, so let's take a look at this load. So today I had 2. I had 2 short runs starting at 2 o'clock. As I was on one of them, I was having a lot of issue with one, right? And the other one starts at 6 o'clock p.m., right? So I was having issue with the first one. And ROC, boy, I tell you, ROC. I must have had, see, the thing, this I didn't know. I learned today that the container department is different than the van department when it comes to ROC. Okay, so ROC has 0 control on what's going on with the containers. They can only like submit, you know what I mean, issues and things like that. But as far as like making changes, like internally, they cannot make changes to it. They have to submit it to a different department so that department can make changes to it. Okay, so I was dealing with all of that. Let me tell you, I came there early, right? I showed up to the location early. For 4 hours straight, I was dealing with that. I spoke to like 10 different ROCs and things like that before we could find any resolution. And as a matter of fact, we never did find a resolution. Okay. Um, I did speak to the gate and I told him, listen, can we just do this? Can you uh, send me? So basically, right, that issue is the freaking chassis, right? But I told the gate, can you tell me which trailers do you have on site that are that I can hook up to? He said. So he looked up all the trailers, the empty containers. He found two, both of them. One is yellow tag, one is red tag. So the one, the red tag, is showing that the crank cannot, you can't crank it back up, right? The leg, you cannot crank it up. So they got a red tag for that. So I told him, okay, can I go check it out? Maybe it's just binding somewhere. And the guy at the gate is like, yeah, sure, man, sure. And mind you, this is an off-site facility, okay? So there's not a whole lot of Amazon staff over there. Anyway, I went over there, cranked it up, and sure enough, that's all it was. It was binding. So it was binding on the low gear. So I put it in the high gear, crank it up, crank it down, and then sure enough, it got out of that bind, and then put it back on the low gear, and boom, cranked up, right? So I was like, okay, I hooked to it, and then I went to the gate, and he was like, man, I can't give it to you because that thing is red tag. I said, oh man, really? Yeah. He said, I can't assign that to you because it's red tag. So he made some phone calls, called supervisors and things like that. And then supervisors like, oh yeah, it's easy. But since it's the weekend, the container people are not there. The regular people are not there. However, the supervisor knew something better than us because he was like, no, all you gotta do is submit it to a higher priority, right? And then somebody will take a look at it and then remove that red tag. That's all we were trying to do. Remove the red tag from the container. See, ROC can't do it. ROC has no control over it. Container, okay? So anyway, we waited 5-10 minutes and then boom, got it, right? We got that doggone thing, red tag off. So I'm hooked to it, boom, left and went to drop it off, right? Now, as all of this is happening, right? So you got to remember 2 hours before your departure time, Amazon will give you a cancel fee if it's within that 2 hour window before arrival time. I mean, before that arrival time. So starting 6 o'clock is the next load. And here they are at 3:40, man. They canceled that thing. So it's another empty move. They canceled that thing at 3:40. Wow. Wow, that's crazy. Like 20 minutes before I can qualify for a cancel fee. So that tells me somebody's actually watching the Amazon loads now. Before, I can guarantee you nobody was watching them because some of the things that they do doesn't make any sense. Prime example. There were times I have done where I move an empty from LAS 7 to VGT 5. And then I moved another empty from VGT 2 to LAS 7. That made zero sense to me, but I'm not questioning it because hey, that's their business as long as they're paying me, right? But I think somebody's actually watching it now. And I imagine there was no empty trailers out of LAS 7. That's why they canceled that thing. So I'm thinking somebody's actually monitoring them now and watching, making sure that there's trailers available, or maybe they don't need no more trailer in Henderson, empty trailer in Henderson. So when you know, and I mean that facility be like, hey, we don't need no more empties over here. We're getting too many empties or whatever, you know. Maybe the system automatically has a what you call it for that. But yeah. So what do I mean about missing out on some money? See, Amazon is one of those places, right? It's just everything is set, such as like your pickup location, your drop location, and things like that. But as you know, when it comes to trucking, everything things never stay the same. You know what I mean? There's always some type of changes, right? Prime example today on what happened to that first load, right? Changes after changes after changes. So this load was picking up in LAS 2, okay, and it turns out that it was actually picking up at an off-site location, which for LAS 2. So it's another 3 or 4 miles away from LAS2. Okay, so I had to travel there to get to that location, to LAS2. I mean, to the offsite, and then go pick up the trailer, right? Despite everything that happened, okay, still had to do that, and it did happen. So when it comes to something like that, you have a claim. You have a claim that you can turn in at the end of the week, okay? So it's gonna be next week that I can put a claim on this, right? A dispute uh, on the invoice. Once they send me the invoice, I can dispute this particular VRID, right? And then I can ask for more money based on how many miles I traveled extra. Okay, now, before, I want to say 100% of the time they're going to compensate you. But nowadays, it's a little bit different. There are times that, I guess whoever looked at your case or your dispute or whatever, and then they're like, nah, come on now. But this one in particular, the base rate on this load is $55 per mile. Keep that in mind, per mile. So if I ran an extra 4 miles on top of what it actually is, 55 times 4, that's what I'm going to submit. And that's the money you might be missing out. Just remember this. And I have all the evidence, right? They gave me the address to pick it up, got the trailer number and the location number, and also you got to make sure you make phone calls to ROC with all the offsite things, and then all of that gets recorded, and you submit that with your dispute, and a good percent of the time is gonna get approved because they cannot dispute it, right? If the base rate says $55 per mile, and I ran an additional 4 miles based on their calculation, then boom. Hopefully, right? You might be thinking, man, you crazy. Ain't no way they're gonna go with that. Listen, it's contract, man. You book that thing, that's a binding contract. And that's one thing Amazon don't want to deal with. You know what I mean? They don't want to deal with that mess, because just because they messed up or whatever, or they sent you to a different, location, that doesn't mean that they don't have responsibility to compensate you for that. So, but we're gonna put it in. We're gonna put in the dispute. I'm not gonna promise that it's gonna go through, but the odds are it will. And because they see your point, they see where you are. You know what I mean? And it's just really it's all a matter of who looked at it at that time. Hopefully the person that looked at it for us is gonna be somebody who's, what I mean, feeling good that day. I don't know. Oh yes, I'm also gonna put in for that time delay. Trust me, I'm gonna put in for every single bit of this. And this is where you have to take advantage of this situation, right? Because I mean, it is, what I mean, it is disputable. It's not something that I'm making up, and you might be asking, like, man, have they ever paid you for that before? Yes, they have, actually. Story time. One time I was in Salt Lake, right? There was a move. It was a USPS trailer, right? I was dropping off at a USPS facility. So they have it the rate was $97 per mile. Okay. They calculated only 2 miles, but in total it was 6 miles. This was in Salt Lake area. Okay. It was a 6-mile total run. And yes, I put in for a dispute. The load was only paying 200 something mile or 200 something dollars, right? And then it ended up, after the dispute, the load paid over $600, man. Yeah, they will compensate you as long as you see or you show why are you being compensated, and it matches with, what I mean, their policy. They're gonna compensate you for it. Prime example, right? And this is into their favor. Just like what they did today with one of my loads, right? They canceled it 20 minutes before the 2-hour window that they have to compensate me for a cancel fee. And I cannot dispute that. I can't put a dispute on that and be like, man, come on, you got to pay me something for that. I can't, because their policy is within a 2-hour window. If they cancel it on their end, they're gonna pay me a cancel fee. So I cannot put in for that because, like I said, it shows that they canceled it, 20 minutes before that 2 hour window. So it's kind of, it balances out, right? You know what I mean? They're watching it, I'm watching it, I'm making sure I'm keeping them, you know what I mean, accountability on the things that they're doing, and they're doing the same thing to me, so it's business, right? Anyway, we're gonna end this video here. I've been talking a lot once again, and then we will see you guys in next video.